take down that team that everybody was expecting to be so successful in PSG Talon. You said that they not only beat them once, but they beat them twice in 2 playoff best-of-5s because of the format of their playoffs to earn their spot here. So Machi's coming in with a little bit of hotness, Azael.
They really are. And, you know, I'm going to be interested to see what the preparation is telling us for these two teams. I think Machi will be relying heavily on what TL did show in play-ins. Seeing the Nidalee banned out, that is something that is kind of telling me that's more of a scrim pick that has become fairly big for Machi. Obviously, we saw a lot of Nidalee throughout Worlds thus far. Has been a really strong pick. Pairs up incredibly well with a lot of the dominant top laners that people are playing today. But, you know, some bans being spread out across the board. These, I say, were 3 of the premier picks for TL in the play-ins. Twitch Rakan became really popular in the play-ins. We saw that Tactical was able to dominate on that pick. Shen, I would argue, is Impact's #1 pick. And TF, a lot of people feel that it kind of papers over some of the weaknesses that Team Liquid does have, where they're not always really proactive and playing across the map in the earlier stages of the game. You know, TF is something that allows them to get that done. So just trying to take a little bit away from each of these players rather than, you know, fully targeting out anyone on either side.
With Ashe, Set, and Nidalee being the bans on the TL side, the first pick here will be Ornn for Machi. And for those of y'all who may not have tuned into play-ins, you're just showing up now here for the main stage of groups. The story of play-ins was Ornn. This man just putting items together in the top lane, sitting there being a meatball, bonking people on the head if they tried to walk up and trade with him. The champion had an incredible amount of success. I'm not surprised to see him continue to get play now. And there you go, locking in the Graves as the first pick of the draft for TL, going after that jungle priority that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think Graves was a really obvious lock here. He seems a lot stronger currently in the meta than Lee Sin, and because these two players really do share the priority on those 2 picks in specific, that is going to be what they go to. Wonder where they are going to take us next, if they want to try to get some sort of a bot lane pick or if they have mid lane priority here. They are going to be going for the blind Orianna. This is something shared by both players. You know, one of the most played for Mission as well, who really is the star of Machi. You know, he plays more of a lane focused style. You know, he was dominant in pretty much all categories, excluding, you know, kill participation. He's not really active, but he has a dominant laning phase. He has massive damage per minute. He really does kind of act as this big late game carry for the team. So TL going to grab the Orianna early on for Jensen. I would argue that is his strongest pick, and this is something that he can use to scale alongside whatever Machi do want to do. Yep. And they are grabbing a pretty beefy set of frontliners here, expecting this to be Volibear, obviously going towards the jungle, as we already have Ornn locked in. Syndra to back that up.
Yep, Syndra's another one of those champions that Mission has quite a few plays on. 6 plays for both Syndra and Orianna for him. So even if the Ori was denied, he's still comfortable here on this champion. Gemini also with the Volibear. You mentioned how it's all about Graves and Lee Sin. Well, Volibear will be a distant 3rd place pick for Gemini here. Both the Graves and the Lee Sin more than 10 plays, but this one's still got 5, so he's not completely unfamiliar with what's going on here. And it looks like we are going to see mirrored picks throughout the first half of the draft here, as Team Liquid will go ahead and secure their top laner in Mordekaiser before more bans come through.
So I do think TL is kind of setting up for a hard engaged champion here from Core JJ. You know, if I'm Machi, I might be banning out things like the Leona, things like the Rakan, even perhaps, because I do think that you want some sort of hard engaged mechanism over on TL, and you also want the ball delivery system for the Orianna. And right now, Team Liquid doesn't have anything to do that. And they're obviously not going to be getting that from their marksmen. So I like the Rakan ban here from Machi. I think that is intelligent, speaks to the preparation. Looking over at the other side, Koala also is the guy that does a lot of heavy lifting for the engage. If you want to ban out the Nautilus and try to pick away the Leona, those are the 2 most played for Koala, and he does really like to go for those hard engage style picks. He can obviously go back towards the Bard, and he has a lot of other champions as well, but those are his priorities, and I do like these bans from both sides. I'm going to be interested to see if Machi wants to ban away the Leona expecting it, because that feels like the obvious next pick here to me, with it being, you know, something to enable the Orianna, give them some form of hard engage, and also something that both of these players do like to play.
Yep, Nautilus, Pantheon, Rakan, so much engage on supports banned away here. What will it be? Thresh instead. Okay, so Thresh will not be pickable this time around, but that Leona, I feel like there's no way that doesn't get picked by one of these 2 teams here. Isaac.
Yeah, I think it would definitely make sense. You know, they can obviously go for more of a dominant 2v2 bot lane and just forego the engage, try to absorb the engage from their opponents, try to look for siege advantages, you know, pre-setting up at objectives and looking to force that way. And if that is their strategy, I think Lux would be a great pick here. If you want to go Caitlyn Lux, I think this is a very dominant 2v2 lane. You have a very strong laning duo with Tactical Encore JJ that could have a really strong advantage against that Karma and Ezreal. You know, you can be able to push in, siege up, but you are going to lack the engage. And if they go that route, what they're going to try to do is win through lanes, be the first to the objectives, set up, force the Ornn and the Volibear to engage into them through the trap line, through the Lux bindings and everything like that. And that is going to be the choice here. So really intelligent drafts, I think, on both sides. I actually do kind of like how it was, you know, picked out. It made a lot of sense coming through. And I think that TL, though they do really lack engage, they have the ways to get ahead in jungle. They have the ways to actually win, I think, all 3 lanes and to then forego their lack of engage by just being the first to the objectives and forcing Machi to come to them, where they look to kite back, disengage, kill off those frontliners, and I think that's going to be the game plan here. Whereas on the other side for Machi, they are looking to nail those hard engages. You have these frontliners, Volibear and Ornn, shielded up and sped up by this Karma, and they are looking to catch out these squishy members from Team Liquid and knock them down before they have a chance to whittle down these frontliners.
I'll always prefer a team that has more engage mechanisms compared to ones that don't, because there's so much more pressure on the team that doesn't have the good engage mechanisms to always be in the right spot at the right time, to always come prepared. You're talking about the strength of the zone control when you look at things like Caitlyn traps, when you look at the fact that Graves can fire off the smoke screen and make the enemy engage difficult. But what we've got to remember is if Machi gets ahead early, if Machi's at a point where now they're able to walk through neutral territory comfortably and secure that first priority on neutral objectives, Team Liquid's life becomes incredibly hard if they can't make Machi check into them. So what I need to see from TL, if they want to find success with this composition, is to not fall behind and make sure they're always the first ones up to the plate.
I mean, these types of comps can be very feast or famine, because it looks so strong when you're the one at the dragon, you have full vision, and they're trying to walk past an Orianna ball, 5 Caitlyn traps, a Lux E, bindings, you know, all of these different things that are so frustrating to try to funnel through. But if you're the one who's actually showing up second as TL, you cannot face check into Volibear, Ornn, as all these squishy champions. You have no one really to walk forward and actually safely clear out these brushes, so they are going to be reliant on checking them, you know, with the Orianna ball, checking them with the Lux E, trying to slowly work their way forward through vision. And if that's the case that you find yourself in, often you do really lose a lot of those neutral objectives, and the game can get very, very hard. But TL, I think, have set themselves up with winning lanes really across the board. The Syndra versus Orianna one is more debatable, but I mean, we're expecting a phase rush Graves here to have the advantage over Volibear. We're expecting, you know, the Ornn to have a tough time up against this Mordekaiser, and I think that Lux Caitlyn is one of the strongest laning duos in the entire game. So TL have given themselves all of the tools they need to get ahead, but they've got to execute on it.
And one thing that I'm looking at comparing the two teams' styles here is remember that Team Liquid is one of those teams that when they were on their hot streak with the back-to-back championships in North America, one thing stylistically that was getting changed up was the fact that they were playing faster than we had seen #1 North American teams play in the past. And then they lose, they end up getting 9th in spring, they come back in summer, hey, they're back, they're alive, oh my gosh, this team, they're making it work again, but they haven't been the fastest still. But Team Liquid needs to be fast early on in this game. Machi is a team that has some pretty solid early game stats, but those stats don't come from having a kill-heavy game or really pushing the issue. Machi's fine as long as Team Liquid doesn't make them answer and just really lose their footing early on in this game. So for TL, I want to see them try to make Machi uncomfortable in that situation. And for Machi, this squad that, by the way, all players except for Bruce have played at Worlds before, just not under the Machi banner, I want to see them keep their cool and maintain that sort of just calibration in the face of what TL is going to bring to them and allow this game to get to a midpoint where that engage can really shine.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of the advantages for Machi just come from being straight up better laners than their opponents. You know, Mission is averaging plus 11.4 CSD at 15, which is pretty enormous. Some of the best mid lane stats you will see in the entire tournament. But can he do that against Jensen? That remains to be seen, because Jensen was looking very, very good in the play-in stage, you know, looking quite on form. So he's going to have to bring that level here and show that he can get those same kind of advantages over Jensen. Everything, I would say, looking fairly typical as far as the rune setup. Comet is the more aggressive option here on the Karma. You know, you do see kind of usually Comet or Airy. And Comet is definitely about trying to, you know, poke out and win this 2v2. So they are looking to fight the 2v2. You can see Core JJ is going to be going Guardian. Very nice to be able to help absorb some of that poke. And he also is actually going Ignite because there's not really an easy exhaust target. And this is going to give you a lot more kill pressure if you can ever land a binding into a trap, those types of combos.
Yeah, when we're talking about kill pressure too, and you're looking at the 2v2 in bottom lane, one thing worth noting is that Bruce is running the teleport on the Ezreal. We know Ezreals like to do this whenever they can get away with it. Tactical choosing to run the heal on the Caitlyn. Now, this does give Machi an overall 3 versus 2 teleport lead.
Oh, you're in trouble.
Now, there comes your Wombo combo with the damage, baby. Click, click, boom. Tactical's on the board.
Welcome to the World's Group Stage. Tactical, the NA rookie, grabbing first blood off a great binding, but Gemini looking to fight back here in the mid lane.
Here we go. Nice follow-up from Machi. They're saying if you can do it, we can do it too. Jensen is down.
Jensen holding the flash there, just not respecting the amount of damage that could come through. You know, I think he thought he would be able to live through that initial burst and flash away if needed afterwards. He was obviously very wrong there. Perhaps the PTA on that Volibear catching him a little bit off guard, that extra bit of burst damage, helping them to take him down, and the kill goes right back over to Mission. So both teams going tit for tat here.
I love it. I love seeing this kind of early aggro out of both sides. And both times, both lanes, it was set up by proper chain CC. The binding into the Caitlyn trap, and then in mid lane, perfectly syncing up the Volibear stun into the Syndra follow-up. Clearly the teams have that synergy down in these 2v2s where it can really show up and matter a lot. But that just means that they both came to play here today, Isaac. We started off yesterday. For anybody who might have missed it or needs a little bit of a recollection here, yesterday's games were pretty one-sided for the first half of the day. There were a lot of stomps. So coming into day 2, I want to see some bloodbaths, man. I want to see some close games of League of Legends, and this is a promising start in the first 3 minutes of this.
It really is, and yesterday was really only Group C that gave us those really hotly contested games. This one starting to look like it could be that again. This wave is pushing away from Impact, so he's going to be exposed to a gank here, and Broxah is farming down on that bottom side, so Impact would be completely alone, and if they can actually chain the CC, you know, land a Volibear stun into a knockup from Orin, Impact is at risk of dying, so I like this gank here from Machi, but Impact is playing it fairly slowly.
Oh, Impact gonna walk right up into the brush, and there you go, Gemini putting in so much work in these solo lanes, just takes a big old bite out of them.
Really well played here from Gemini in the early stages. This was one of the criticisms that Broxah was kind of facing in North America, was that he was playing these early stages of the games so incredibly passive. We saw him get involved a lot more in play-ins, but here, Gemini, 2 kills executed on before his first base on the Volibear, so really impressive jungling from him, and he has been making a big difference for Machi and putting them out to a small early lead.
And he's the one on the Volibear against the Graves. That's what the conversation was going into draft, is Lee Sin kind of sucks right now. Graves doesn't. Only one person gets to play Graves. It ain't blind pick. So what's the other side going to play? And Gemini's Volibear response, putting in work here in the early game for Machi, getting involved in both solo lanes. He took one of the kills for himself, so that'll help accelerate his own build path a little bit further. And this Volibear could be a menace come the mid game. We're talking about engages. We're talking about Machi needing to be in a point where they feel strong to engage with the Ornn and the Volibear. These are good omens.
They really are. You know, you're shutting down a lot of these strong lanes. The fact that he's forcing TPs out, you know, at inopportune times, especially that kill that went over onto Jensen, you know, that forced Jensen to actually TP back with just a Fairy Charm. That's never a position you want to be in. You know, he has gotten to base now and grabbed the Merc Treads, but Gemini has been a force thus far. The one thing going for Broxah is that he did get a little bit of extra farm. TL looked like they want to try to set up around this dragon. They have that bot lane prio. The BF buy there is in for Tactical, but they're not going to commit to it just yet. Just trying to clear out that vision.
Yeah, Tactical with that BF sword. You can see over on the other side, Bruce did go for the Sheen before the Tier, which will give him more immediate power, more trading capabilities should they get into a fight around that Drake. Of course, it'll just mean that the Muramana gets completed slightly later in terms of that mid-game big spike. Jensen continues pushing up here in the mid lane. He's level 5 against the level 6 of Mission, so does need to be respectful of what's going to be going on around him here, as Broxah is shadowing this lane off to the right. Will clear out a control ward. Broxah still yet to be involved with any kills on the map. Only that one kill that we saw in the bottom lane, 2v2. There for Team Liquid thus far. With Impact rotating down into the top side river here, Broxah should feel comfortable.
Oh, Gemini spotted.
Secure this, but Gemini's walking up. Nice smoke screen. Graves is so effective at avoiding those smite fights by just making it so the other guy can't smite. Easy crab, easy pickup, continuing to build the leads. And now we're going to have ourselves a fight. Flash over the wall as Machi gets their top laner away. That could have been some real bad news without that summoner spell.
Yeah, I mean, Machi get away with just that summoner spell spent, but I will say it's a pretty bold look when you have the Mord and the Graves, who are both going to be kind of stronger in those individual matchups, and you're going out and trying to fight for that River Vision and fight for that Scuttle as the Volley and the Orin here. So Machi do get punished. You know, not a big punish, but they are still down on that summoner and are going to have to be pretty careful about that. Jensen just trying to kind of work his way back into this lane. Obviously got put pretty far down after that early kill. He is down 20 CS, but he is trying to set up a freeze, and he has a lot more minions alive to farm, so that deficit is going to whittle away somewhat.
Jensen needs to just stabilize, make sure things don't get worse for him here, and he'll be relevant once the team fight stage does roll around. As you mentioned back in draft, Jensen will have to be very gung-ho in terms of looking for positioning for this ball, being able to deliver those shockwaves into valuable positions onto multiple players from the
Broxah
team.
could be in trouble here.
Broxah about to face check the... Gemini walked away from it. Unlucky.
That is actually so lucky for Broxah, so unlucky for Gemini, because Mission was actually moving up.
Yeah.
If Volibear's still in that brush and you just get Volibear stunned into an ultimate there, now PK, he has no flash and he's ulted up and Broxah's behind him, he's in trouble.
EK's stuck in the Shadow Realm. Impact is making sure that he's not able to walk far enough away. Just bonks him in the head with the mace. Forget the Orn Horn. Let the Ram run off into Timbuktu and pick up your check, Mr. Impact. Top die. Broxah runs away from Mission, who walks up through the top side of the river, picks up his level 8, but he will not be able to secure any sort of counter kill.
Yeah, nicely done there by TL, battling back on that top side. They are up gold at this point. I would say they're probably okay with where they are, but the advantages are not, you know, as coming through as much as perhaps they would have hoped because of the good early pressure from Gemini, you know, getting kills in top and mid. And honestly, I think that Bruce and Koala have laned very effectively. Obviously, they gave up that early first blood, but, you know, going for the Comet here on Karma, trying to play aggressively with that. And also, Bruce itemizing towards the Sheen as opposed to just going straight scaling for the tier really did help them out, and they've been able to fight quite evenly against Tactical and Core JJ in what I consider to be a losing lane.
Up here in the top side, excuse me, you can see Mission was really applying the pressure onto Impact there, just trying to keep him away from those waves, keep him down as much as possible. He does have a 15 CS lead over PK, but now back in the bottom lane, Gemini hanging out down here, going after the Drake. Brox's top side, he's farming up the wave that has collided with the tier 1 turret after Impact had to back. So this should be a free first Drake for Machi. It's not an exceptionally fast first Drake. 9.5 minutes into the game means you won't see a super early Drake soul, even if they go 4 for 4 there. But this is another just bonus for Machi to have under their belts, make this game a little bit closer.
I mean, we gotta give credit over to both Mission and Bruce for how quickly they are actually picking up farm. You know, this is pre-10 minutes. They're both at about 100 CS. So, you know, early game to be already past that 10 CS per minute mark is very, very impressive. You know, this speaks to their laning prowess and how they created advantages in the PCS in the early game, not always through kills, just through straight up not missing minions. So this is kind of their MO, and you can see that Mission already has that early Ludens completed. Jensen is very far off his completed first item. Obviously, he took a sidestep towards those Merc Treads, trying to survive against any more jungle pressure. Obviously, the Volibear stun, the Scatter of the Weak, going to be reduced by that. So it is a good buy, but you're seeing Mission, you know, use this mid lane prio, go in, steal away Raptors, and just try to really increase his farm as much as he possibly can, so that when they do show up for these fights, when they do have these 5v5s, he's in a position to just try to 100-0 someone straight up.
And I like the fact that at the beginning of this game, when we were talking about how there's good early game stats for Machi, but not necessarily super kill heavy. It's not because they're just out there making their opponents see a black and white screen over and over again. And you say, yeah, it's because they're better laners. They're able to outdo their opponents, but can they do that on the world stage? I think that's one of the questions that's the most fun to see the answer to in all of Worlds. As Broxah comes down here, looking to see if maybe he can pick up a kill with a collateral damage.
It's on cooldown, so not gonna.
Yeah, Koala just walks away. My bad. I had not seen that was used in the previous engagement before we panned down. So unlucky. Broxah's just not having the big bullet ready to go. However, because their opponents are so low, remember there's no teleport for Bruce to come back down here. He wouldn't want to use it even if there was, considering he'd be in a 1v3. This is lots of plate money, lots of opportunities there for Team Liquid in the bottom lane to build that gold lead up and keep trying to expand that lead. Gemini, though, never one to be caught sleeping at the wheel. He sees that the enemy jungler's in the bottom lane. He's going after the Rift Herald.
I mean, he's gotten both objectives now. He grabbed the Dragon, he grabbed that Rift Herald. Yes, TL are getting some advantages now here down on the bottom side, taking a couple plates. It can be tough sometimes to kind of tax the resources of the Ezreal because you've got to get them low once. And here's that replay of how they initially did get low. Brock's obviously, using his ultimate there. If you do land any sort of binding into Trap, into Piltover Peacemaker, the Lux ultimate can come through, the Graves ultimate can come through. So a lot of kind of access to that burst damage there. But you've got to tax those resources of their Ezreal. Get him low once, force him to base. CTP's back. Get him low again, force him to base. Then you can start to try to attack that tower. And that was kind of what TL was able to accomplish with that latest play.
Top side, you can see the Ornn catching back up to Mordekaiser here a little bit in the farm. Still going to be down about 10, but not as bad as the 15 from earlier. Also closing in on having that Abyssal Mass completion. Did want to stop off for the Bomby Cinder for a little bit of extra wave shove, wave control versus the just insane amount of push that Mordekaiser is able to put out there. Checking back in the jungle, it's Cinderhawk plus fully completed Boots of Swiftness for Gemini's Volibear. Broxa sitting on the Warrior completion, but still only level 1 boots here. Gemini does have Rift Herald. Will be walking into the river here. Is going to face check Broxa. Finds a little bit of damage onto him. Won't get the second half of Into the Line. Broxa trying to clear out that control ward there in the Pixel Brush. Will get it. Jensen's hanging around nearby, but Mission with some nice damage down onto Jensen. Jensen, of course, being able to trade back right there, so pretty much even between those two. This is one of those moments where both sides are just... Junglers are still hovering. Everybody's doing that dance on the very edge of the fight, seeing if maybe their mid laner can be the one to get the advantage and start off the 2v2. Back in the bottom lane, speaking of 2v2s, it's Tactical and Core JJ maintaining that lane pressure and lane control, working on those plates, needing a little bit more damage to make sure it happens. Impact losing out in the 1v1 against the Ornn. We're at the point in the game where he's no longer a tank. The man is just taking over as Gemini shows up. Likely going to go for the play here. Flash away from Impact. Make sure that Gemini can't get it done. However, that Summoner spell will be a nice win there as Bruce eats some damage in the bottom lane. Coming out from Core JJ and Tactical yet again as the red buff will be stolen away. Syndra doing what she can with that one. Meanwhile, topside, it's first turret of the game over to Machi.
Yeah, it was good flash from Impact because if you get tagged by that E slow, you are going to get chased down, with the flash follow. But still, they take first tower with that Rift Herald move, and Mission has actually been pretty active this game. Multiple trips up towards that top lane, trying to help out PK. And as a result, they do cash in on that first turret. Machi is in a really good spot. Yeah, TL did take down that tower on the bottom side, so Caitlyn is looking pretty nice already. But TL, I think, want to be playing from an advantage. They want to be the ones, snowballing towards the soul, forcing their opponents to come to them. And as of now, Machi are the ones, I think, getting more out of this early game. They have the easier to execute on composition. And I think they are going to be incredibly happy with how they have squared up against TL in the first 15 minutes.
You're talking about Mission roaming around, affecting the other lanes. At the same time, look at his farm, man. 169 at not even 15 minutes into the game. He's 30 farm up on Jensen and has been affecting the other lanes.
He's not just getting that farm from nowhere. He's actually stealing it from Broxa, right? So he's taking that farm away from Broxa too, because he's made multiple trips, it feels like, over towards that Raptor pit. He is just not missing any CS in lane. TL do grab themselves a dragon here, making good on that bot lane prio. You can see that Tactical already on the Stormrazor has picked up another Prick Cloak here too. We'll see if he does go straight towards the IE. That is the build that Freak is a huge fan of. It is much higher auto attack DPS build if you just go for that double BF item, and it is going to be very effective against both the Ornn and the Volibear, who are not going to be just knocked down instantly. So we'll see if he goes for it. Gemini on the side here, though, setting up for a potential tower dive if they find an angle, because all 5 Machi players did show up mid lane there.
All 5 ready to go here, but won't be able to find the chance to go for any sort of a play, because Impact had roamed down as well. Mordekaiser can make those tower dives feel very disrupted. He can take the person who's meant to engage and tank the shots and then just throw them into the Shadow Realm, kill them off very quickly, disrupts the whole dive in itself. But Machi sitting on a couple hundred gold lead. Team Liquid is keeping this game very close here. Farm advantage in the jungle for Broxa, still 0-0-1 here on that Graves. Looking in the inventory, you can see the Kindle Gem there, working on a Black Cleaver, second item. This is one of the things that gets discussed a lot with Graves, is like, when is Graves building a Black Cleaver and it's just excessive because the opponents don't have any armor, yada yada. But hey, you're up against a Volibear, you're up against an Ornn, you're up against an Ezreal who can build Iceborne. I am perfectly fine seeing Black Cleaver this game, particularly because nobody else on your team is going to be building it either. You need that passive.
And to be honest, all you're really going to have access to in most of the fights, unless you can just talk about backline access, with the Graves ultimate, you're just going to be hitting Ornn and volley and kiting backwards. That's kind of how this composition works for the most part. So softening up those frontliners can be helpful, but we see Impact in trouble.
Impact defending himself in the 1 versus 2 underneath this turret. He has the ulti. He could use that if he can get in range of Mission, but he wouldn't want to use it on the volley bear alone, I do not believe. Topside, PK defends 1 versus 3, and he can do that just fine there with the Ornn Horn coming in for the wave clear as Jensen. It is just an assault on multiple lanes from both sides now as Team Liquid has their bottom lane duo and their jungler here in that top lane working on the tier 1. Impact stays alive in the bottom lane, but he's going to lose the tier 1 down there. It's trading back and forth, left and right, top and bottom, all over the map. Bottom lane tier 1 falls for the side of Team Liquid. Top lane tier 1 falls for the side of Machi. Everybody's picking up money all across the board, and things are just falling apart. The turrets are being wiped off of Summoner's Rift.
They really are, and you can see the emphasis is being put in different places for the two different teams. Right now, it feels like for Machi, they are just trying to get this Syndra as strong as possible. They know that is a very squishy Team Liquid team, so if you get this Syndra ahead of the curve to the point where he can just one combo anyone, you are feeling really, really good as Machi. And for Team Liquid, it has been about the tactical show. He got the first blood, get him the turret gold, pressure up on that top side, give him the solo gold there, try to get this Caitlyn to be as strong as is possible, because he is the one that really is going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting in taking down these two tanks.
Now, we talked about how Gemini was able to secure first Rift Herald and first Drake of the game for the side of Machi. Team Liquid has responded by securing second Drake of the game and second Rift Herald for themselves. The Rift Herald for Machi got the top lane tier 1 turret and the subsequent headbutt off on the tier 2 to put lasting damage on that later. We'll see how much value TL is able to get out of theirs. Mission sidestepping away from the ball. Mid lane tier 1 turret falls. Machi is the first of these teams to take down all 3 links in the outer turret chain. And you can see the total gold on the side of your screen right now. Mission, the name of the game, man, 8,200 gold. He's 600 ahead of the next closest person, which is tactical. This guy is always the focal point of Machi. They love to play around him. They love to facilitate and enable him. And here at Worlds 2020, Isaac, it is no different.
He's taking it all, man. He's getting all the farm. He's taking the jungle camps. He's taking the plates, the turrets. He is getting paid. And we'll see if he can make it work for Machi in these team fights, because this is a fairly slow-paced game. And this, I would say, is kind of the comfort zone, honestly, for both of these two teams. This is how they play a lot in their region. They are not, the fastest of teams. And that is something that North America in particular has been criticized for, coming into this region. LCK always used to be kind of the slowest region internationally, but were really known for their incredible macro and how clean they were with that. Over the last couple of years, the pace of the game has really picked up as LPL has been the one, winning the world championships, and more teams are trying to emulate that play style. So for Team Liquid, as well as for Machi, that was kind of a question, for these teams coming in. Can you play a more slow-paced game and still look good at Worlds?
Jensen's farming up bottom side, but Mission and Gemini do not want to allow that to continue here. Jensen does clear out the wave and immediately step back. Will they find the opportunity to make a play on here? Oh, Jensen! He flashes away, but it will not be enough. Gemini takes the kill. Jensen not respecting the fact that the enemy team could have been there, and he gets taken down for the second time this game. Now in the mid lane, PK's going in for the engage, finds a knock-up on a Broxa. Core JJ loses half HP, fires off a binding in retaliation, won't get anything from it, and with the enemy mid laner dead, Gemini walks right over into the Drake pit, looks to secure this one here for his team.
And Machi are looking in full control, to be honest with you. They are the ones better set up around the dragon. TL had no chance of even getting over there. Jensen got erased, was quick on the flash, but couldn't get the Seraphs off. Not sure if it would have saved him or not. But it is Machi grabbing the kill. It is Machi pushing Team Liquid back and extending their advantage here with another dragon. Cloud is kind of, I would say, like the most criticized dragon as far as the overall power. People don't love it, but that being said, working towards Soul, having low cooldown on those ultimates, as well as a lot of flat move speed, is still very, very beneficial, especially when you're playing from ahead and you are the team that wants to engage. If Team Liquid cannot kite you out, if you are just simply too fast with the extra ultimate cooldown, always have that ready for engages and the burst of move speed as well as the flat 10%, well, TL just aren't going to be winning any team fights.
See, I think one thing that people underestimate sometimes about a Cloud Soul is they're always thinking about it from the perspective of some 200 years champion with 17 dashes and an iframe and the ability to go.
They're not thinking of it as a purple scorpion.
Yeah, But let me tell you this, Isaac. If you're a champion whose only engage mechanism is run at the other dude fast, feels really good to run really fast at the other dude. So Gemini in particular on this volley bear now might have what he needs. Tactical, barely kept it low. That was almost not even a barely. Just sidesteps out of the way of the True Shot Barrage at the very end there. Both summoner spells on the Caitlyn now down though. Very important here for the next few minutes.
Critical to note, it was flash off of Mission also. So the strongest member there committing the flash, wanted to try to take down Tactical, and he barely survived. Using those summoners, getting shielded up by Core JJ and flashing over the wall. Vision score extremely high. He might be playing Zombie Ward, so it can kind of play some games with it. But still, I mean, Core JJ is a guy that focuses very heavily on vision, even with those rune choices. And that is one of TL's strengths as a result. He is really good at knowing when to ward, where to ward, and how to be able to kind of get the setup around objectives without just giving up his life, even on these Enchanter type supports. So we'll see if that can pay dividends for TL, who really need to get something going around these objectives, I think, sometimes in the next 5 minutes.
Also want to point out, Mikhail's Crucible is the first completed item for Koala.
Smart.
Recognizing that Team Liquid has such incredibly limited CC and engage potential, the only thing that you're ever really going to get caught out by is a Lux Binding. Orianna has no hard CC aside from Shockwave, and that's not going to immediately catch you. Nobody's going to walk up and say, ooh, a cupcake, and step on a Caitlyn trap for no damn reason. Broxah has no hard CC. Impact only has his ulti. The binding's the only thing to set it up, and now you can get anybody on the team out of the binding. I love this first pickup here. Broxah's trying to disengage from Gemini, who has the dead man's plate, uses the ulti to jump away from the Lux binding, make sure he doesn't get caught out in a bad spot. He did have Koala right next to him, so that Mikhail's was available, but didn't want to force him to use that, wanted to save that for later. But no volley ulti does mean Machi needs to be a little bit more careful now with how aggressively they're posturing.
Yeah, and you can see some of the downside of going PTA. You don't have phase rush, so it's a lot harder to actually keep up. A lot of junglers just go phase rush on pretty much everything these days, it feels like.
It's pretty powerful.
PTA is obviously additional burst, and you get the utility of amplifying your teammates' damage, but if you can't get to them, it's not going to do much for you, so had to blow that ultimate in retreat there, but that's kind of what you want to see TL doing. Like, that's like a mini skirmish example of what the 5v5s want to look for. They are trying to kite back and focus down those frontliners, trying to set up here for a potential pick onto Mission, but again, no hard engage makes it pretty tough to actually look for it.
Okay, bottom side is the 1v1 between Mordekaiser and Ornn. Now, Impact seems to be doing all right about now, using the ulti onto PK, flash away coming out from the Ornn. TPs have showed up. Impact cannot kill him off in time. He wants to try to get away, but the entirety of Machi shows up to make sure PK's not in a bad spot. Impact was all right until it didn't become a 1v1 any longer. Brox is on the top side. He'll pick up a Scuttle Crab as the trade, but you don't want to be trading.
No, Sum's on Tactical. He's going to die.
Tactical, what are you doing there, my friend? He tries to get himself out. Nicely done. The reversal from TL. Grab the kill onto Koala, but now it's not worth it because Tactical is out of the frame. That's a 1-for-1 here in this trade.
And that's only the support down for Machi versus the main carry down for Tactical. He is the strongest member of the team right now. He has a lot of their damage. Machi not willing to make a big move towards the Baron, but still getting a couple kills across the map. Team Liquid does knock down the Karma, but again, that is the lesser of the rewards there. And they are just playing a really strong game here, showcasing some of the strength here of the PCS. Not to be underestimated.
I hinted at it a little bit earlier. We'll talk about it more after the replay, but let's take another look at how Tactical found himself in trouble here.
Yeah, nice flank, honestly, from the Volibear in our Axe replay. We can see that Gemini was hiding around the edge, wrapped around behind him, because Broxah was actually playing in that side of the river. So Tactical thought, as long as I stay towards the side of the river where Broxah is, I will be safe. And I think that is a reasonable assumption. But Gemini was able to skirt the vision, was able to wrap around behind. When that flank comes in from multiple sides, you are in trouble because the Ornn is above you, the Volibear is beside you, and the Syndra is in front of you. So you are a dead Caitlyn, and Machi gonna go to Soul Point.
That's a dead Drake, because guess what? Machi's there first. That Team Liquid win condition for fights that we talked about of needing to arrive first, it's not there.
No.
Now, Mission will aggro the blue buff. However, the bloop from the Luden's Echo did jump over to Broxah, so they're aware something is going on here. Broxah has to retreat. And you know what, Isaac? I don't like team compositions with no engage. They require such a perfect situation where you never lose control at all. And what we're looking at right now is Team Liquid's in a spot where, how do you punish? Aside from Machi doing something real goofy, Team Liquid's just looking for some chance to say, okay, I guess they got to come to us. But Machi's always the ones that seem like they can make something happen. They're the ones that have more CC. They're the ones that have more go buttons. And Machi still has a slight gold lead. But like you said, man, being on Soul Point now they can force that big Dragon Soul issue here in just 4 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that it's one of these situations where, as I said, these comps can be feast or famine when you're playing the style that TL is playing, right? And it's something that we've seen a lot in the past with, like, Aatrox comps where you didn't necessarily have an engaged jungler alongside and you kind of just had to rely on a flank or being set up earlier. TL don't have a lot of comeback mechanics besides kind of just hoping that their opponents mess up. Because you even if they're overextended in the side lane, like what's your mechanic to punish them? Graves coming from behind you and kind of running you down, that's not really very reliable. As long as Machi even contain some amount of vision, through the river and even just neutral vision. You don't even need aggressive vision to actually prevent that. So TL are going to have to pick their moment, and it's likely going to be, at this next dragon, if not before, to just try to walk in through the darkness, get some vision, and look to try to team fight. And for their sake, they're going to be looking to try to get 3 items before they do it, but Machi is not going to allow them to continue waiting. They're starting this up, and TL has no vision, and again, they have no one to really face check. You can't send a Braum forward. They've got to send a squishy member forward to see what's going on.
And Broxa on the Graves can easily be one-shot by Mission Syndra. He has a Spellbinder with 100 stacks.
Machi's just going for the finish.
Baron's at 3,000 HP. This is going to be the fight for the Baron. It's secured by the Ezreal of all people. Broxa goes over the wall, dashes back out. And Machi, knowing that Team Liquid has no way to actually go in, they challenge TL for the Baron. They put faith in their ability to win the 50-50, and they are rewarded.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a coin flip play there from Machi to actually just straight up go, knowing that Broxa could go for the steal, especially in combination with the Shockwave that could have gone bad for them. But Ezreal the one to come up with the Baron, and Machi now are in full control of this game. This would be an incredibly uphill battle for TL to be able to come out on top, and honestly, rightfully so. Machi has just played the better game. They have been more proactive. They have set a better round of objectives. They circumvented their weaknesses in the early game, and TL has done nothing proactive really throughout the entire game to be able to try to combat that. So they are just kind of stuck in this same game plan, which is sit back, hope you get items, and hope you can eventually get yourself in a position where you can win a 5v5, where you can be set up better around an objective. But Machi is just bleeding them out. They're denying all semblances of vision around those neutral objectives. And TL, I don't know how they're even going to get to that next dragon without dying, honestly.
Well, the game has been kept pretty close by TL in terms of overall gold so far, but now that Machi have the Red Bull Baron buff, now that Machi are in a spot for the next minute and a half where they control this huge bonus in terms of their pushing and map control, this is where you expect to see that bleeding turn into a hemorrhage. This is where you expect to see Machi take the game to a point where Team Liquid no longer feel comfortable at all contesting in open, neutral territory. And Team Liquid is getting familiar with the sights, sounds, and scenery of their base, Isaac, and they're going to be real familiar with it if the game keeps along at this pace.
And to me, it's less about the gold and more about the map state. Like, where is the closest word to the Dragon Pit? Riddle me that. It's at their base.
Well, here we go. Ornhorn sounds off. True Shot Barrage into the back line. Some damage onto Broxa. Half HP there for him, continuing the push. They've got that Baron up cannon minion. Just putting those slow but steady shots into the turret. Boop. There's another one. Boop. All right, they finally got rid of him. Machi won't be able to go ahead and push all the way for that turret. Instead, I like the fact that they recognize, hey, the Drake is spawning in 45 seconds. Don't find ourselves in a bad spot, caught with our pants down, being like, oh no, it spawned, we better run over. They're backing in time. They're going to get everybody down to the pit and make sure they don't give TL that win condition as being there first.
And honestly, based on how TL is moving around the map, it looks like they're just going to give up the dragon. I think they're just giving over soul. Because Brox is going to the Krugs, 15 seconds before it spawns. So it feels like TL has just decided, all right, well, we can't fight for that either. So, that kind of begs the question, what are you going to fight for in this game?
Yep.
And to me, it's sounding like they're saying, all right, well, it's not really combat stats, so we're still scaling, guys. But, I mean, you've got to make some sort of move, in the game. You just don't win a lot of professional games against high-level teams such as Machi by playing like this, right? You can't just give over everything and expect to magically win later when you're even more behind. They've got to make some sort of play. I think the call is just, all right, we'll contest for Eldor or Baron and nothing else, and we'll give over that soul, but you are giving Machi every single little bit of of power that they need to just close out this game. And you are now completely dependent on Machi throwing the game because it's no longer in your hands. You are giving over your control to your opponents and hoping that they don't know what to do with it. And so far, Machi has definitely looked like they know what to do with it.
Machi is having themselves a time. Drake's Soul secured before 32 minutes. Baron's going to be up here again in 2. And we need to see Team Liquid fight for that, if nothing else. The one thing Team Liquid does have to hold on to, the silver lining after that previous Baron, is none of their inhibitor turrets were actually broken. The base still has its integrity. It is intact. It's not like there are these outside forces of super minions saying, no, somebody always must stay in the base. You have to answer that. But Team Liquid still needs to respect Machi's ability to engage. True Shot Barrage gets shot off towards the minion wave to just shove that one up, get these waves pushing. Machi wants to make sure that they have the entire map choked off and just strangled. Make TL sweat to try to find a way to respond to this.
I mean, look how strong these guys are. You know, there can be some questions. I mean, I'm sure people are talking about, oh, they're upgrading the wrong Orin items, you know, Iceborne as well as Ludens instead of Death Cap and things like this. But honestly, you know, even with some of that stuff taken into consideration, Machi is just so far ahead. You know, 4 full items completed on mission. The farm that these guys are putting out is insane. You know, 375 and 372 farm. We're not even at 33 minutes. Bruce and Mission are so strong.
Here it goes. Ornhorn sounds off. 3 knocked up into the air. Mission won't find the follow-up. But using that ulti has afforded them half of the HP on the tier 3 turret up here. Machi knows they were able to go for that. They know that because they have 3 Cloud Drakes, Ornn's ulti is going to be back up in no time at all. They'll have it ready to go for the Baron here in under 1 minute.
Yep, there's not much cost to that, right? You can just basically use it as like an unironically zoning ultimate, where I know everyone always says that as such a meme, so I have to say that, but it's legit, right? And the cooldown is so low at this point for Ornn. You drop the ulti, TL must back up to respect it, because if you get knocked up by that Ornn ultimate in front of Mission, you are dead. So you back up, you get a few hits on that turret, and then, yes, TL can step forward after that, but it's going to be available for PK before they ever fight again. So I like using that, you know, just to get some pressure and just to get some chip damage down on that tower. TL are just praying that Jensen can get to a death cap before they actually have to fight once more. We see Tactical is at a very strong point. You know, he has the Storm Razor, the IE, Rapid Fire, as well as the Lord Dominic, so he can kill these tanks if given time. You know, and once Jensen is on a death cap, he'll be able to as well, but here they go again.
Here it is. Once again, the Ornhorn. There's your flash in from Gemini. They're looking for Jensen. Mission nearly killing him off there with the ulti. Machi investing some resources for that. Flashes from jungler and mid laner alike trying to kill off the TL mid. They won't quite find him. Jensen just barely surviving, thanks to that Seraph's Embrace shield. But Machi still has control over the map. Machi still has priority over the Baron pit. Jensen teleporting back in. Tactical trying to lifesteal up off of the wave. Make sure he stays at high enough HP here. Bruce trying to find some damage. Tactical still at half. True Shot Barrage shot off again. This thing has no cooldown at all. With Ezreal having
2 Qs and it's back up.
It's ridiculous how often he can fire this thing off as Machi sees their control of the map and they go after the Baron here. Blue Trinket placed down means Team Liquid is aware of what is happening. Core JJ loses half HP. It is so difficult to approach this Syndra at any point in time. Tactical and Impact also going to be zoned off here. Gemini maintaining aggro on the Baron. Lux ulti fired through. Over the wall goes Bruce and Machi. They have control over the Baron. Team Liquid, that's the 3rd True Shot Barrage in like 2 minutes. Tactical's nearly taken out now as well, down to about 1/3 HP. TL has no way to approach this. They just cannot get near this Baron at all. Brox is looking for the steal. He knows he can't just give this away. Into the pit he goes. It will not matter. Secured by the Syndra. Brox is juggled around, but he gets back over the wall just in time. Gemini is still barely alive. And Team Liquid, they've got no tools, Isaac. There is nothing in this draft to help them through these situations.
Yeah, I mean, Machi is playing it out beautifully. And I love how aggressively Bruce is positioning himself. I mean, look at this man's build.
Yes.
There's no way he can die. There's nothing to catch him out. He's got a Mikhail's Karma shielding up behind him. He has his own QSS. He's on Death Dance plus Iceborne, you know, very defensive build. So he can shift aggressively into TL and say, what are you going to do? They have to walk through all of this poke. You know, Mission and Bruce are insanely strong. And Gemini and PK can tank up the Baron pretty much forever here. So Machi are playing so well with this advantage. TL are trying to set up early for this Elder, which I like, but it's too early. You can't actually maintain this position around the Elder for a full minute when the opponents have the Baron buff. You're going to lose control mid lane.
Tactical finally gets a couple of auto attacks off onto Bruce, but it won't really amount to much of anything. Tactical's the one with lower HP. Here comes PK! There's your Ornhorn, but he's not going to find the second half. Jensen with a shockwave onto 2. Jensen in the ground. Machi has priority over mid lane. Broxa tries to retreat, and Team Liquid is just not looking prepared for their main stage opponent here in Machi, who have just been in control for so long in this game. Isaac, Tactical, he's trying to buy some time, but it doesn't matter. What does that mean when Mission is in the base? Tactical is dead. There comes Volibear over the top rope, and Core JJ is down. Gemini's on a killing spree, and the mid lane is just being crushed by super minions, crushed by Bruce. This Ezreal knows exactly what his limits are and what he is capable of. Mission fires off the ulti. Impact's going golden. Now Impact's likely going down. Double stasis, that's cute. Don't matter too much. Gemini stays alive in the ulti. He's going to be beat up by Mordekaiser, but that's a small consolation prize to get when your Nexus is under fire, and 37 minutes in, Machi takes the win.
And let's be honest, it wasn't close. TL thought they could outlane him, thought they would have the better objective control and the better setup to be able to play out this style of composition. But it was Gemini getting it done in the early game from Machi. And once things didn't go the way of Team Liquid in the early game, kind of as expected with a lot of these lanes, they thought they would have bigger advantages. They thought they would be first those objectives. But it was Machi with better control, strangling TL out of this game. Bruce and Mission put on a farming clinic.
Yeah.
These guys were at what, like 13 CS per minute or something like that?
Something just absolutely incredible.
That's insane.
Back to what you said, looking at teams that dominate their regions by just laning better and being better players, the question at international competition always becomes, will you still be able to function going up against the best teams from other regions? Will you still be able to say, yes, we will win through lane domination and outperformance? And Machi just looked back and said, well, yeah, duh. Look at the way that those carries performed. Look at the way they farmed. Look at Gemini, who despite the fact that his opponent was the one who got priority